It's a well-known fact that I'm not a huge fan of the Hammershot. I can see why people like the thing. I mean, it looks pretty cool. It's, you know, single action. You can dual wield it and stuff like that. People do really like the Hammershot to the point where anytime somebody asks, like, hey, what secondary, what pistol, what blaster should I buy? The meme was, buy a Hammershot. I believe BFU from Bay Area Nerf started that one. And I never really agreed with that statement, especially when I have access to something like this, which is my beloved strong arm, the one Mr. Nathan made for me, and a ton of cylinders to go with it. And, well, the strong arm, in my opinion, fits the role of a secondary a little bit better because, well, I've gone over this several times, but my opinion is a secondary should probably do something more than what your primary can do. And for the most part, I mean, this thing gets, even when heavily modified, pretty good ranges, not great, slow-ish rate of fire, but decent capacity. And, well, I still have some issues. First, well, being the stock performance is really not good. 5-round cylinder right there, which is not great. The trigger is a hair trigger, which I cannot stand. It's one of the only blasters I know of where you have to have trigger discipline to effectively use it, which, I mean, good on them, I guess. I don't really know. The hammer is uncomfortable as all heck. And overall, I just don't like how the bottom is thicker than the top. This thing's hard to point, in my opinion. It just doesn't feel right. So, in an effort to appease some of the Hammershot fanboys, and maybe even turn myself into one, I dumped a lot of money into getting one of these things. And when I say that, I mean, this is, of course, my original Hammershot that I would rock in Dart Wars, and it has seen better days. It is scuffed to heck. This green stuff right here is like the AstroTurf from Dart Wars, so it's been thrown around and dropped and all that kind of stuff. It's well worn, it's been used, it still, of course, works, but what if I fixed some of the problems I have with this thing? I mean, I've never really owned a supremely modded Hammershot. The most I've ever done is cut out like a spacer to put in there, which you should probably never do, by the way, because over time that stretches your spring out and ruins the compression. And yeah, please don't do that. Just buy a good spring. Speaking of which, let's start with this. This is a Titan 10 kilogram spring from Tactical Foam, which, full disclosure, he kind of sponsors me in a way. He gives me discounts on stuff I buy if I make a video on it because it helps him out. And hey, that helps me out. So if you're going to buy in these parts or you're thinking about it, well, this is kind of a review in a sense. I mean, I'm excited because I want to like this blaster. I know even Captain Xavier loves this thing beyond all measure. So 10 kilogram spring, that's a lot. That's a lot. That is quite a bit. That is not a small number. I actually looked, and the highest I could find was like a 9 kilogram spring. This was the highest one I could find. So that's going to be interesting and probably plastic shattering. And what about the capacity? How about a 7-shot cylinder, again from Tactical Foam? Now this comes with the cylinder itself and then the rotation mechanism that helps it, you know, obviously function. And, well, I know there is an 8-cylinder one. I know Gavin Fuzzy makes one, and Atch Attachments also makes one. But I was lazy, and this all came from the same source pretty much, so why the heck not? 7 shots will do me just fine, and it looks pretty darn cool in my opinion. This thing just looks ballin'. I love it. I love the look of this cylinder. What else? Well, again, it's not really pointable in my opinion. It's hard to judge where the barrel is because of this goofy setup, so let's fix that with a Magnum kit. This is a body modification kit that just bolts right into the Hammershots and looks pretty darn spiffy, if I do say so myself. Look at that. Oh my gosh. Oh, that is way better. You put this other rail on there, and yeah, I believe it goes this way. And it uses the original screw posts on the blaster. And while that does make it absolutely bigger, it looks freaking cool. It reminds me of like the, what's it called? The Phantom Cruises from Guns the Duel, a game that I absolutely loved and used revolvers in constantly. This is the Hammershot 03 kit. There's actually other Hammershot kits you can get. One of them that is called, I believe, the Eastwood as he dubbed it, which is more or less just a typical revolver setup, as typical as the Hammershot could be. And then there's like a snub nose variant of that, which I liked quite a bit. But, I mean, this one just looks cool, and since I was only planning on using the one of the hammer shots, I'm not planning on dual wielding them, well, that worked out great for me. All of these pieces can be purchased off tacticalfoam.com, and if you go buy these kinds of things from him, well, maybe mention in your notes or something that Walcom sent you, and maybe he'll help me out more in the future, because that would be great, because this stuff is not, I mean, it's reasonably priced, don't get me wrong, it's just when you look at, like, I'm dumping a lot of money into this little pistol that I don't even know if I'm going to like, so I really hope there's not massive buyer's remorse, but even if I don't like it, I know there's going to be somebody in my group of friends that will, so I'm not too worried about that. But the last problem is that hammer. I don't really, this hammer is horrible, seriously. The only place I can ever grip the thing, unless I completely adjust my, grip on the blaster itself, which is really not, it's kind of counterintuitive that I have to hold it like this and not have my finger on the trigger, so I can't, like, try to brace myself against the trigger. There's nothing I can do, and so most of the time I'm just pulling right down on that, which is terrible, and I hate it, and I really haven't seen too much of a fix for that. So, from Containment Crew, because Tactical Foam did not sell it, I bought the Blaster Parts freaking metal trigger set and all that stuff, which is a thing I've wanted for a long time, and I'm really hoping this fixes my issues, but in all honesty, I have no idea if it will or not. But what I do know is that I'm going to have a pretty crazy cool looking hammer shot that I'm sure a lot of you will love. What to say about all of this? Well, for one, I'm really worried this 10 kilogram thing is going to absolutely destroy this blaster. These metal parts should kind of help that. I think it either will help it or harm it. I'm not entirely sure. But this kit looks absolutely amazing. It is a different color of orange compared to the standard blaster. But in my opinion, since it uses different colors of orange already, there's not a whole lot missing there. And on top of that, this thing matches the kit pretty well. So heck, why not? And just talking about this, this is 3D printed. Holy crap. I mean, I've gotten a lot of 3D printed stuff. This is a step beyond pretty much anything. I guess this is what happens when, your business revolves around 3D printing and you're using it for cosmetic purposes. This looks great. I cannot find a single imperfection in this thing. A little bit of like stray hairs everywhere from, obviously where the extruder was moving and stuff like that. But the detail is really good. It's a little rough right there. And that's about it. There is like some slight scuff right there and some slight scuffing on this piece right here, which I can just kind of move off with my finger. Not a big deal at all. And of course you can always paint this, but I'm torn on painting this blaster right now. I do kind of want to paint it and I might in the future, but right now I'm not planning on doing that. That is a lot of cool stuff. I don't know what any of like these screws right here. It did come with an Allen key and then some very long Phillips head screws, which are the same, looks like the same exact screws that are right there. But then there's like an Allen key right there. I don't know what that's for. I have no clue what that's for. There's no instructions or anything with this, but it's pretty self-explanatory. I mean, when you put it on the front, you can see, oh, it matches up with that and that. So no guesswork there. This, however, did come with a ton of instructions, both in German and, of course, English, and explains pretty much everything. And it's pretty self-explanatory. I mean, you put the trigger in, you just swap out the parts, which I will do here on camera, so you probably would never even need to read these if you watch this video. It does mention grease your full metal kit for long-term fun. This thing, I can kind of guess how this is going to work. You put this thing in that thing and put this thing together in there. So, not too crazy. And this, well, it's a spring replacement. This, I'm really excited for this. So, let's take this thing apart and let's just turn it up to an 11, shall we? All right, and we're in. I know I have like an air restrictor deleted hammer shot somewhere. I was surprised this is not that one. So that means I have another hammer shot somewhere that does have all of its stuff here. So, first question is, how do I save this part? well, I'm not going to need any of this because it's all going to be retained by this piece itself. It's just, I mean, oh, there's a little nub right there, so I don't need to worry about that anyway. So never mind, I'm just a rushing idiot. There we go. Well, that's a very simple modification. You just pop that in there. This is also 3D printed as well, which I didn't quite mention. It's pretty good. I mean, this is kind of what I expect from pretty good 3D printed stuff. This is just insanely good. Holy crap. This is completely fine. This is, again, what I typically know. It's not like it could do with a sanding and some painting, but what the heck ever. And again, it's a completely different orange. So we're going to have lots of different color oranges on this thing. So that was really easy to do. Don't have to worry about doing anything more with that. So we can move on to this stuff. And honestly, as you can tell, I don't really mod Hammershots all that often. So, I mean, don't hold it against me if I don't know how absolutely everything works. I should note that the entire Hammershot internals come out without removing any screws or anything like that, but I am going to have to get into this blaster in order to fit my new spring and my metal trigger set. And I'm absolutely worried that this thing is just going to destroy itself, and it seems like that is some kind of... Oh, nope. Well, I'll have to pick that up in just a little bit, but let's grab that whole metal trigger set here. Let's grab this spring here. Open that. I can't compress this with my hands, like, at all. This is one heck of a spring. I am absolutely blown away with how powerful this spring is. Hence me, like, I'm glad I have another Hammershot laying around, because this one is probably going to bite the dust. Let's get that out of there. This is all peened. Well, there is instructions in here. And, yep, you're going to have to try to tap out those pins like you're working on a Boomco blaster, which is moderately disappointing. And we'll have to actually do that. So, I mean, I can't really show this part all that well, but you're going to follow the instructions on this thing, which says to put it on something, you know, heavy and take, like, a smaller piece and tap it through into that pin and knock the pin out. It's pretty self-explanatory, really. So, another jump cut. I'm going to get these pins out. Alright, we finally got those pins and everything taken out. We've got the metal piece in there. That was not fun at all. I did not enjoy that. I absolutely hated it. I would never want to do that ever again, ever. That was terrible. I don't think I can say that enough. And that is no joke. I would never want to ever try to put in this kit again, which is hilarious because, you know, with that crazy 10 kilogram spring in there, I'm kind of expecting it to fail at some point, which is pessimistic, I'm sure, but it's just plastic and that spring is crazy. I'm going to put a pretty liberal amount on there. That's the grease that's supposed to help tone down the wear that you would get from the metal parts grinding against themselves. To prime this just a little bit. There we go. All right. That should be pretty good. And hopefully that does in fact work. There is a little leaflet right here which tells us where to put the grease, and that's exactly where I put it, so all is good. Now I just got to put in some of these screws and get this thing back together. This has been a pain. A right pain, and I'm still worried with this whole plastic setup right here if that is eventually going to fail. That is not a light spring load, but it does in fact work. This is like the 4th time I've had to take it apart for various reasons, camera issues and so forth, and I just want to put this stupid Magnum kit on, which I haven't been able to do yet. I haven't even been able to fire this thing. I do have the 7-cylinder hammer thing in there. This spins freely and I don't like that. And I don't think there's a fix for that. I really don't. I mean, that's pretty much at maximum. And the way this normally works is that it's spring loaded. which of course we don't have with this, so it's probably something I'm just going to have to deal with, which is a little disappointing, but I don't know. Again, this is the first time I've really modified this Hammershot, besides doing like an AR removal and a spacer thing. I'm going to put these screws in this top rail and make sure it catches. Yeah, it does seem to be working. Let's put all that together. Yep, that's a working. All right, now the kit couldn't be any easier, but with, of course, the blaster parts kit installed as well, things are a little bit more difficult. Not a whole lot, but a little bit. There we go. Put that down. Now, that doesn't seem to do anything but sit on the rail. This does have these two parts right here. Now, these screws are different than these screws. I'm not going to use those screws right now. I'm going to put this in using this long screw right here and see how well that works. That worked fine. I'm going to try one of these screws down here, since this looks like a much thicker part, but they are a different thread. It's fairly obvious they're a different thread. Let's try to get that in there. Came with 3 of them. Oh, well, yeah, well. Nothing I can do now, just screw it in. Which it can't go in anymore. They're all the same size, too. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's not gonna work either. I need to fish out a different screw. That is, I don't trust these at all. Not sure what that's about. Thankfully, any modder should have a whole bin full of screws. We'll just pick one that looks good. How about, yeah, let's take that one. We'll put that through, since Nerf threads are pretty standard, except for it totally stripped out my screw port putting that one in. Why does it come with these screws then? It doesn't make any sense to me. Well, can't really fix that, but it's not going anywhere because we have the one on there, so we'll just put that other screw in there for safety's sake, and wow. That's pretty different. It is much more pointable now. It has actual sights on the top of it. Not sure how well that's going to work. Cylinder does rotate. I guess it's time to get some darts in this thing, because I'm excited. Some more time has passed. It's actually been quite a long amount of time. When I cronied this thing originally, I got a cold 45 FPS out of it, which did not seem right to me. So I took out the air restrictor and I got like low 60s. That didn't seem right to me at all. So I played around with it a little bit and I decided to take out the air restrictor because I thought maybe this cylinder, this 3D printing cylinder, wasn't engaging it correctly, which, I mean, doesn't even make sense because, of course, it, had a, 45 FPS with an air restrictor in it. Don't make a whole lot of sense, but regardless, I did that, and then I was having more issues, and so I decided to epoxy every single freaking hole I saw on this thing, and so I did, and, well, the crony readings I got are tapping in at a high of 92, which is not bad. Not great. Well, I mean, it is great considering this thing's like low 50s when you first get it, high 50s, but 92, that's serviceable. That's not too bad. So going over the parts and how I feel, this hammer is definitely a lot better in my opinion. I feel like it's more comfortable to grab with my thumb than the other one. It seems just slightly easier. I do wish there was some kind of hammer that would go down, just dip down a little bit farther. I don't think it's necessary, but in terms of like durability with high-end springs, maybe. But I think you can pass on that one unless you want the shiny trigger and whatnot. The This I'm not completely sold on. The 7-shot, these are all 3D printed, and some of the barrels are very tight, others are not. I'm not feeling it at all. I think you can pass on the barrel as well. Some people may have better experiences with other 3D printed barrels, but it's a 3D printed part. I don't exactly trust it all that much, and from my testing, it seems wildly inconsistent, so I'm kind of not feeling that one as well. The overall kit, if you like the look of the kit, for $35, that's an absolute steal in my opinion. It looks amazing. And there's two others. In fact, I really want the short-barreled version the most. I don't know why I didn't get that one. I got the Magnum because it just looked cool in my opinion, but I really liked the shorter-barreled look. This fixes a lot of the issues I had with the Hammershot originally. There are far better sights on it, and it's far more pointable at the cost of it being larger, but I don't really mind it being larger because, well, it's supposed to be like a one-handed weapon, supposedly, and, well, I don't think dual wielding is all that good. It can be fun. I usually dual wield in video games, but the main reason I wanted a good Hammershot was so I could use the Heaven or Hell stance from Granado Espada. Nobody knows what I'm talking about right there, but I'll just put up a picture because, well, it's a stance in the game that allows you to use a rapier or sword and a firearm, a handheld firearm. And it's cool. It's like my favorite stance in the game. And I think they brought out another one that used exclusively rapier. I'm getting out of hand, but I really wanted to use that. That was the original reason why I ever bought the Hammershot to begin with. I bought it so I could use a boffer and this blaster hand in hand, and now I finally can do that. And 92 FPS, 88s, that's all fine and well for me. The spring, it's a 10 kilogram spring. It's completely crazy beefy, and Tactical Foam sells it for $6. Honestly, I feel like that's worth it, but I'm also under consideration from John's suggestion that most likely these barrels are not long enough to use that whole spring, and I know I can probably get some better performance out of it if I included a spacer, but Hawkeye 007 put up a very strong, well, reasonable argument that this spacer obviously adds pre-compression, so over time, that's going to weaken the actual spring itself, so it's better off just getting a good spring, but even his beautiful Cursed Companion, I don't think was hitting all that hard, so take that with a grain of salt. Maybe you can convince me to spacer it down in the comment section below. Overall, I'm happy. I wish I could get a little bit more out of it, and I think if I'm going to get more out of it, I need to have some brass barrels. This might actually be strong enough to require that brassing of barrels. It's still actually hitting a little bit under my strong arm, surprisingly enough, but again, I can one-hand it. It looks really ballin', and as far as I know, there's no kit for the strong arm to make that look absolutely ballin'. I mean, it looks pretty cool, but it doesn't look this cool. Well, that's about everything I have for this thing. I do like the Magnum kit. The barrel, again, I think this might be my actual problem, but I'll do some more testing in the future. The trigger system, it's okay. I don't think it's necessary. The spring, definitely beefy, and that's what we need. So, overall, not bad. A little too much to put into a Hammershot, but hey, it looks cool, and I can't wait to get some other opinions from like Captain Xavier and whatnot. I'm Walcom S7's Hands. Thank you very much for watching this video, and of course, I hope to see you in an entirely different one. I guess the main question is, does this make me love the Hammershot? And, well, I'm a little grown closer to it, but, not a whole lot. I'm still not going to say it's the best blaster ever, unless it was hitting, like, hundreds or hundreds and tens. Oh my god, if I could get this thing to 110, that would be amazing! But it doesn't hit that, so, oh well.